This presentation describes the Victorian Auditor-General's Office's financial audit process. The term financial audit refers to an audit of the financial statements of an entity. Each public sector agency is required to prepare financial statements, and the independent auditor's opinion adds credibility to that report by providing reasonable assurance that they are presented fairly in all material respects and/or give a true and fair view in accordance with the financial reporting framework. Financial auditing is not limited to the public sector. Private organisations and not-for-profit organisations can also have their financial statements audited, but there are some differences between a private sector audit and a public sector one. Firstly, in the Victorian public sector, an auditor has an additional requirement to consider any issues of wastage of public resources or any lack of probity or financial prudence in the management or application of public resources when conducting the audit. Secondly, a private sector entity can choose its auditor, whereas a public sector entity cannot. VAGO is the designated financial auditor of public sector entities in Victoria. Each year, VAGO audits the financial statements of over 550 entities and of the consolidated annual financial report of the state of Victoria. VAGO's financial audits comply with Australian auditing standards and are conducted using a risk-based methodology that VAGO developed together with the Queensland Audit Office. This methodology is rigorously followed in all our financial audits. For those entities required to produce them, we also audit performance statements. A performance statement is a report of an entity's actual performance against its measures and targets. We do this alongside financial audit work. A financial audit has three key stages, which are the planning phase, the execution phase, and the finalisation phase. Throughout this whole process, we engage with agencies regularly and collect information and evidence from them, which we use to form the basis of our conclusions about the agency. Additionally, we report to Parliament on the results of these audits. This occurs after audits are completed. We'll now look at each phase and corresponding milestone in more detail. The first phase is planning. Every audit is planned each year. In the planning phase, an auditor gets an in-depth understanding of the agency and its environment, including its internal controls. We then use this information to identify financial statement areas that are more likely to have a material risk of misstatement and develop a plan of controls and substantive testing that focuses our audit attention and effort on those areas with the greatest risk. Audit tests and procedures are designed to get the most effective and efficient audit process. The plan for the audit is outlined in what we call an audit strategy. We develop the audit strategy by drawing on our assessment of existing management controls and organisational and environmental risks. The strategy includes a high-level summary of the tests and procedures we have designed to respond to the identified risks of misstatement. This is a key tool for communicating our audit approach to the agency. The audit strategy includes discussion of key financial report audit risks, internal controls including any significant deficiencies, the planned audit approach, which sets out our testing approach to various financial statement items, taking account of the planned reliance on internal controls, and milestones and other administrative information. The next phase of the process is the execution phase. In the execution phase, we carry out our planned audit strategy by performing tests of controls and some substantive testing on the entity's financial statements, systems and records. The results of these tests are used to gather evidence about whether or not the controls are operating effectively at the agency and whether the risks identified in the planning phase have resulted in a material misstatement. Evidence for financial audits includes signatures of individuals performing a control activity, checks, details of electronic fund transfers, invoices, contracts, policies, procedures and documentation, ledgers, reports and outputs from application controls, and worksheets and spreadsheets supporting cost allocations, computations, reconciliations and disclosures. We begin to form conclusions and we share these with the audited agency. We communicate our early findings and any concerns we might have with the internal controls. The key document we use to do this is the interim management letter. A management letter communicates significant matters identified during the audit that require remedial action. This can include observations about the quality of internal controls in place, accounting issues, and compliance with applicable laws and standards. An interim management letter is issued before the end of the financial year, while the agency still has some time to take action on issues before the audit is finalised. Additionally, for some audits, we will ask the agency to do a hard close or soft close before the end of the financial year. This is when they provide a version of the financial statements before the financial year has finished, so that we can begin to examine them. For some smaller or lower risk audits, the planning and execution phases are combined. Next in the process is the finalisation phase of the audit. This is where we finish our substantive testing and examine all the evidence gathered in the audit to form our overall conclusions on whether the financial statements are misstated and whether controls have operated effectively for the whole period under review. Finalisation of an audit involves 3 key documents: the closing report, the audit opinion, and the final management letter. The closing report is a communication to the Audit Committee on the status of the audit and on its overall conclusion. It tends to include the audit opinion and the final management letter if these are complete. The audit opinion is the Auditor-General's opinion on the financial statements. Whether, in the Auditor-General's opinion, the financial statements present fairly the financial position, cash flows, and results of operations for the year, and have been prepared in accordance with the relevant legislative framework. The agency prints the Auditor-General's opinion alongside its financial statements in its annual report. The final management letter is where we communicate any outstanding issues or concerns that we consider should be dealt with. This follows on from the interim management letter provided earlier in the audit. The final management letter is provided to those charged with governance within the agency. Additionally, we table reports on the results of our audits. This is the Auditor-General's opportunity to communicate directly with Parliament on the results of the audits. The Auditor-General is required by legislation to prepare a report on the annual financial report of the State of Victoria, which is a report consolidating the results for the state. In addition, VAGO's current practice is to produce reports by sector on the other results of audits. VAGO produces 7 reports annually on the results of audits by the following sectors: portfolio departments, water authorities, universities, technical and further education institutes, hospitals, local government, and sector-wide ICT controls. The reports typically include a sector-based analysis of the quality of financial reporting by agencies, the financial sustainability of agencies in the sector, and findings in relation to the areas of focus examined. For those relevant sectors, the reports also include discussion of the results of audits of performance statements. The reports are tabled in Parliament. Agencies are given the opportunity to provide a formal response to the reports, and this response is printed in the report. All our reports on the results of audits are available on our website once they have been tabled in Parliament. You can access these on our website via our Reports and Publications tab. For more information on the financial audit process, you can access our audit practice statement on the website via the About Us tab. Or you can contact us on 8601 7000 to find out more.